All right, good evening, everyone. We are sorry for the break in transmission. We had some technical issues here. Thank you for joining us back. I'm glad that you guys are still staying around and you're back to join us. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming back. We had some issues, some technical issues. So thank you so much. Our guest is already around today, Mr. Tolu A. Akinyemi. He's a very wonderful man. We've not met physically. We only got talking on started from Instagram and then to WhatsApp and then he became my mentor. He has been a very wonderful person, and I'm very sure we are going to enjoy the moment we are going to have with him tonight. I'm very sure I'm going to enjoy that. All right, guys. So just stick around. You can tell us where you're watching us from, and before I quickly bring in our guest for this evening. Sorry for the time spent already, and thank you so much for still sticking around. God bless you guys. So before I bring in our guest, let me quickly read a short biography. Tolu A. Akinyemi, also known as Tolutoludo and Lion of Newcastle, is a multi-award winning Nigerian author in the genre of poetry, short story, children's literature, and essays. His works include Dead Lions Don't Roar. He wrote this in 2017. If you have not read that, please, you need to go and check it out. I got a copy of that from Okada Books, and I really enjoyed it. Unravel Your 80 Gems, that was a kind of collection of essays that was written in 2018. Dead Dogs Don't Bark, Dead Cats Don't Meow, a whole lot of books here. Never Play Games with the Devil, that was in 2019. Inferno of Silence, short stories in 2020. A Book Tivol Love, I love this too. I love this particular book, A Book Tivol Love. Poetry, this is a poetry collection, also written in 2020. Black is Not Inferior, written in 2021. That was also a collection of poetry. Never Marry a Writer. I still look forward to reading this one actually. Never Marry a Writer. I want to know why. Maybe by the time it comes up tonight, he's going to tell us why he wrote this particular one. Never Marry a Writer. Wow. This is also a poetry collection written this year. Everybody Don't Kolo Mental. That's another collection of poetry written by Tolutoludo, also published this year. I Wear Self-Confidence Like a Second Skin. This is children's literature written also this year. It's like 2021 is a year of writing. So he's going to tell us more about his journey, and he's going to also tell us a few things about how we also as young people can improve on our writing skill and also make ourselves a name in the world of literature. So Tolu has been endorsed by Arts Council England as a writer with exceptional talent, and I can really testify to that. The first time I came across his collection of poetry, I've always been thinking for you to write a poem that is going to make sense, you must have all these grammatical words, big words that you have to check a dictionary before you understand. But having read one of his works, and I was like, wow, so someone can write poems without having to break people's heads. Like, I enjoyed reading it. I was like, wow, very simple, something that you can easily relate with, you can understand the lines and everything. And I can tell you that he's really a wonderful writer. He's also a co-founder of Lion and Lilac. This is a UK-based art organization, and he sits on the board of many organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me tonight, Tolu A. Akinyemi, aka Tolutoludo.
Hello, good evening. Prof,
Good evening.
good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing so great. I'm doing wonderful. We are really glad to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity and honoring our invitation even though it was very short. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate
The pleasure is mine. It's a pleasure to be here, and good evening to everyone watching us from all parts of the world.
Yeah, I've said a few things about you before coming up. So I would just like you to introduce yourself to the house. Who is Tolu A Akinyemi?
Tolu Akinyemi, Tolutoludo, the Lion of Newcastle. Yeah, so I'm a multi-award winning Nigerian author based in Newcastle, United Kingdom. I am a poet. I'm a conference speaker. I have written so far, published 13 books so far, with two forthcoming titles in one in September, which is a collection of coronavirus poems, Born in Lockdown, which was written during the lockdown and inspired by the events of the pandemic. And I also have another forthcoming poetry collection in January titled A God in the Human Body. And that explores around the themes of our divinity as writers, as gods, because as writers we have enormous powers. I have been endorsed by the Art Council England as a writer with exceptional talent, and my always I'm a writer on the scene who believes in the next generation of writers coming up, and I support the literary space and people within the arts. I can be on Saturdays. I can be found in Time Out Market selling books. Yeah, so that is just a brief introduction about myself.
That's very brief. Sir Tolutoludo, no, I've known the first time I came across your work, I thought you are just a poet, but after a while, I realized that you also been writing into other genres and all of that. So, how do you, as a poet, how do you metamorphose into trying out children literature? Or can someone actually be effective in different genres of writing, or you just have to pick one and focus on it?
Yeah, I think you can be effective in all, like in different genres. Yeah, so I think my personality, like when I was a young, like growing up, I used to read a lot. My dad studied English at the University of Ibadan, so that actually helped us in the family. We had quite a lot of books. There were books everywhere. So like growing up, I had like access to so many books, reading books and everything. So, but when I started like writing essays. So I think initially I used to write quite a lot of inspirational stuff. So back then, toluakiyemi.com was just basically an inspirational, mainly for inspirational and motivational essays, inspiring people, personal development, and all of that. Then from there, I released Dead Lion Story. I used to write poetry, but it wasn't really big. But to your question, yes, we can actually, like, you don't really have to be known in one genre. So the fact that you write poetry also means like you can also write essays, you can write stories, you can write children's literature. As long as, although there are times, even in my short stories, Symphony of Silence, some people will say, oh, some of the lines were kind of poetic, because as a poet, you see that the brevity of poetry, even in the essays, I still have I still get those kind of comments like, you can't take the poet, you can't take the poetry out of the poet. So even in the other genres, you still see for like poetic language, you know, transposed into the other genres. But as a writer, it's good to be flexible enough. So the fact that you can write poetry also means you can be good. It's just like we are here now, probably talking, or you go to a conference to speak, then you can inspire people. The fact that you're a poet does not mean you cannot inspire people. So that way, you can also write essays. You can write children's literature. You can write anything. I plan to write a novel like in the future. So that means you don't have to like restrict yourself. And I think one way to also get better is also by reading as well. when you read wide and you read, beyond your genre, then you'll be able to like go far, and you have that confidence as well to delve into other forms of literature as well.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. How would you comparing your very first work to the 13th one now? How would you, has there been any growth, any change that you can really say, okay, if I'm to pick the first book I wrote and the last one I've written now, there has been a very wide range of change. Can you really tell, or it has been the same all through, even
Yeah,
to
so
this?
basically, as a writer, I think what we need to like, as writers, what we need to take into cognizance is that we need to evolve, we need to grow over time. So when I wrote The Lions Don't Roll in 2017, I came, first book, debut, well received, really good. But over time as well, I have like, you know, grown within the space. So if you ask me when I released my first book, The Lions Don't Roll, or what are the key elements, like what made the book unique, I would say the message, the underlying themes of the collection, inspirational poetry, and all of that. But fast forward to 2021, there has been a lot of growth in terms of the language, the imagery, similes, metaphors, evoking emotions in the readers. So I see people that read some of the books and they said, oh, they cried when they read some of the new books. So, that I will call that growth. Then I think the most important aspect of the growth that I've seen personally has been Black Does Not Equal Inferior, was the book that was like dedicated to the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's one aspect. Then I had Everybody's Just All About Mental Health Issues. So everybody is mad, everybody is crazy. So then I have works like which explores the coronavirus pandemic, which we are still like facing at the moment, and all the emotions and issues that people face during the lockdown. So what I would say in essence, the most important thing I've seen is that I have learned to take a lot of risk in terms of topics I've delved into, because there are some topics that that once you delve into these topics, it could go smoothly, or it could be like quite risky. But over time, I've seen a lot of growth. I love to write like in simple language, but now I think the most important like thing I've seen in terms of evolving has been using a lot of poetic devices in my poetry. So, but as writers, we must always embrace growth. I think that's very, very important.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think this alone, we have written almost times two of the books we have written in the previous years. I'm coming back to that, but this question I want to ask is about because personally, most times when I write something and I want to publish it and put it online, I feel reluctant. Like, okay, what are people going to say about this work? Is it good enough, or is there something I should still add? Is there something I should remove before uh, taking it out to the public? So I'm always conscious about how people view my piece. So as a writer, do I really need to worry much about how people see what I write, or I just write as it comes and I just publish like that, not minding what people really say about it?
Yeah, as a writer, well, so basically, in terms of, let me use this analogy. Like personally, whenever I release a new book, I put it on like I put advanced review copies or advanced reader copies. I put it on like sites to get like feedback from readers around the world. And these people, they are like book reviewers. They review your work, they critique it and everything. So I'm always like open to like having people read my work, critique it, get 5 stars, get 4 stars, get 3 stars, get 2 stars, get 1 star. So because different people would like see a book differently. But as a writer, I think everyone faces that imposter syndrome. No matter how many books you have written, you may still feel, oh, will this be good enough? Like everyone, even the experienced writers, award-winning writers, all of that, you might see you are under pressure, some form of pressure as well. Will this book will it be better than the one I wrote in the past or I wrote previously. So, but my own advice would be that as a writer, put your work out there.
Mm.
It's all right for you to put your work out there. You are not like, I think it's a lot of pressure for people to like, oh, when I put it out there, what will people say? Because if you are thinking of what people will say, you will not do anything. So put your work out there. Let people review it, get the feedback. If if they feel like, oh, it could be, or it can be better, because to be honest, there's no perfect work.
Mm.
I will give you an example. When I wrote A Beautiful Love, so one of my very close friends was like, "Oh, Tolu, give it some time, let it marinate, and come back to it again and again and again." But personally, I believe like there's no perfect time to release a book. Either you will release a book today or you release it in 5 years or 10 years time. The feedback you will still get is what it doesn't mean, even if you sit over the book or over that poem you've written, it doesn't mean that by the time you put it out there, that you will still get all of the acceptance that you want. So my own advice is put your work out there, irrespective, but on your own, from your own end, keep on reading, keep on improving in your art, in your, keep on, getting better and better in your writing journey. So while you are improving your writing journey, don't let it, as a writer, you are vulnerable already. Being a writer, sharing your work and putting it out there, it entails vulnerability. So personally, I wouldn't let what people say, deter me from putting my work out there. I will always like push out my work irrespective.
Mm. That's very great. Thank you so much, sir. Back to the other what I said. This year alone, because I remember the last time we spoke around February when I was telling you about my book. And before I knew it, I already saw another published book, another published book, another published. I was wondering, is it that you don't sleep at all, or how do you do it as a writer? How do you get to just write and write and write and just keep publishing like that? Is it something that you feel you find very easy to do, or really takes some level of sacrifice?
Yeah, I would say it takes a whole lot of sacrifice, because when people are sleeping, I write like odd hours, like at times some of my poetry collections were written the dead of the night. Some were just actually based on like pure inspiration. So, you know, it's kind of it's taking me like a whole lot to get to this point where I have published like quite a lot of books. But I think for writers, having that place, not really a physical space, it could be anywhere where the inspiration or where that inspiration flows is really good for a writer. Personally, every morning when I wake up, I go running, jogging, or exercise, go in love with nature, run. There are some poems that I will be jogging like this and the ideas are coming and I'm putting it on my phone or I'm storing it on my head. When I get home, I write it down. Or at times I just stop and put it up on my phone. So it's all about finding what works for you as a writer. So some of the poetry collections I wrote in the middle of the night as well. So like so when the inspiration comes like and there are times they are not I like the poems are not planned or I didn't even plan. I didn't plan like okay to write a poetry collection, but when the ideas came and I just started writing and writing and writing, and so a collection comes through that. So I would say in a way, in terms of the flow of the writing, it's easy in a way, but it takes a lot of sacrifice as well and confidence to be able to put them out there as well.
And I think we should also add consistency to that. I think it's because we have been consistent over the years, and it just became something easier to just quickly write. I think consistency also has something to play line.
Yeah, I agree to that, Prof.
Okay, okay. Okay, the next question I want to ask now still has to do with inspiration. At times I know there are times I've tried to, especially for me, for example, I find it difficult to write at night, but maybe early in the morning or maybe after eating a nice meal, then I find it easy to write. So for a writer, is there really a perfect time to write? Someone can pick up to try to write at any time, begin to write.
Yeah, personally, I would say
Picking
no.
up inspiration.
Yeah, personally, I would say there is no perfect time. Whatever works for you, you know. That's my own personal advice. Like, whatever time you believe works best for you. No, there's no perfect time. I write in the morning. I write at night. I write in the midnight. I've written so many collections in the middle of the night as well. So whatever works best for you. If and I don't advise people to say, oh, you have to write like my own. Like I don't advise anybody, oh, you have to write every day. I know some people say, oh, you need to write every day, write 100 words per day, or write 1,000 words per week. I don't tell people to say, oh, this is what for you to become a better writer, you need to write every day or write 1,000 words or 200 words. My own advice is whenever the inspiration comes, that's the best way. Don't at times you may have to like force it, just to, even though you're not in the mood to write, I want to write and just pull down stuffs. But personally, I write whenever I'm inspired to write. I don't force myself to write when I don't feel up to it. So that may be something for people to like take note of as well. Don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure that I have to write, because at times you just be writing and what you're writing does not really add up. Although the first draft, it doesn't really have to be perfect. You can, come back to it over and over again, make it better, refine. I have people like in the writing community here in Newcastle that have been, they've been like this a poem they can, they are reading it over and over again for 5 years, 10 years, just to make it, just to perfect it, But someone may write a poem and that first time is perfect. And for others, you may have to, keep coming back to it over and over again, or a story, or whatever that you're writing. You can. So, but there's no perfect timing. Whatever time works for you best. At least from my own experience, I write 24/7.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. There's this question as well. Someone asked me one time, it's easier for someone who is in the line of languages to find writing a bit easier. Let's say, for example, maybe I study a bit of English or a bit of literature, or let's even say I'm in art. So it might be easy for me to say I want to go into writing. What do you say about those who are in sciences, social sciences, or even all these tech guys that also find them now in the writing space? And they find it a bit difficult to really use the right words and that's in the writing space. So what advice do we have for people like that who have never had any contact with maybe English language learning or literature or anything that has to do with art, but they just have interest in writing?
Yeah, so I think that advice would be for people like myself too.
Great. Now we know.
That never had any background in English literature or creative writing or within the art here. So I think personally, if you study like English or creative writing, you can learn the nuance in terms of writing in a particular way. You are taught, the language aspect. So for people like us, we that we didn't have any background in writing or literature. I think there doesn't really I don't see much of a difference, in terms of, because I think what it's done for people like us that we have no background in English or creative writing or literature, it means that we are like free like a bird. We are not constrained in that box, of classroom. So I know for people who study, if you study English language, you might, like in class, you are taught like when you're writing a novel or you have an outline or you're writing a story, this is the outline, this is what you need to follow. When you start this way, the pacing, the plot, all of that. But but for people like us that we do not have a background in literature, we just write. So for my poetry, I'm not like, oh, I need to write it this way or I have to follow this way because I'm just like I'm like an illiterate, when it comes to English language, like and creative writing. So I don't really see that as a barrier. There are so many exceptional writers out there with no background in English or English literature or in the arts or creative writing. So that at all should not be a barrier to to your writing, to your craft. It should even be a limitation. And if you believe you need to go to university to study English or you need to take courses to improve yourself, there are so many resources out there that we can benefit from in terms of learning and improving. But I won't see that as a barrier. Like it doesn't really matter. Either you study English or but if you studied English, you might have an advantage. But that advantage as well might actually restrict you and put you in the box because you're not able to like express yourself freely. Because if your lecturer told you in class that this is how to write a story, then you're not able to. If you see somebody who writes a story outside of that classroom
Mm.
correct definition, then you believe, oh, they've just written nonsense. But it's subjective, to be honest.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Because that the last thing you said now would bring me to this next question. And when it comes to poetry as well, especially for those of us that did literature, there are poetry, there are rules, these are things you have to follow. It has to be like this, it has to be like that. But then by the time I see someone write a poem, for example, without punctuation marks, without observing the capitalization of first letter of first word and things like that, I was like, why are you writing like this? So as a poet, do we really need to follow the rules like word for word? This is the English grammar is saying, since I'm writing in English, I have to follow the rule word for word. Or I can just decide to write the way I want.
Yeah, so like for poetry, there is what they call poetic license. So poets use that to like break the rules of language. So for instance, you can see a poem where I can write a poem where I write the we are on a Facebook live, then I space maybe a little space and I pull another word, or I space a bit, maybe not just one space. I can put like maybe six or seven or eight spaces, and I continue on that same line, and I come to the other line. I don't start at the beginning, I start probably in the middle. So it depends, in terms of poetry these days. As even the way you arrange the words on page, it really matters to the person who is reading. So all poems do not really have to like, oh, we have to start everything with capital letter, because little things like even the syntax on the page matters a lot to the reader. So when I write a poem and my editor is proofreading, going through it, and oh, this syntax, this is how it should be, because it helps the reader. There are times you put a line break so that it can the reader can take in the line that they just read, assimilate that first, let them then let them consume that line, then before they take in the next line. So I would say for poetry, you are able to like break the barriers. But what I would advise personally is that because we are following poetic license, we should not, some people will be using like incorrect, like wrong
Mm-hmm.
tenses, and they say, oh, poetic license. Personally, I wouldn't subscribe to that. Like to take your writing to the next level under the guise of using poetic license, we shouldn't be writing what is outrightly wrong or does not
Mm-hmm.
exist just because it's poetic license. I've written stuff whereby I formed like new words and everything, so that's fine if you're coming up with your own word.
Words.
Yeah, so like in the book Full of, I had something about charmazing, so that's charming and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a booktiful love, so I use like I am able to form my own words because maybe someday those words could go into the Oxford Dictionary too. So but I don't automatically go for like incorrect tenses just to like pass on the message about poetic license. Yeah, so that would be my own advice.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So I believe others are listening to us. So don't use poetic license to write what is not correct. Thank you so much, sir. So let's talk more about publishing now. At least we have said a few things about writing, and I believe all of us have been able to pick one or two things from that. Now, talking about publishing, we've read and we've heard that there are two basic ways to publish: the traditional way of publishing and what we have now is the publishing. But for the sake of those who may not understand this, can you quickly enlighten us what this is all about, traditional way of publishing and the e-publishing?
Yeah, so traditional publishing involves you writing your book or your manuscript and looking for an agent to represent you and finding a publisher, a big publisher, or just finding a publisher, the big presses that will take on your work. Publishers like HarperCollins, for instance, they are a big. That's an example of a traditional publisher. And indie publishing. So indie publishing is in two aspects. So there are two. The first aspect is self-publishing. So you've written your book and you want to publish it yourself. So that you can do that yourself, or looking for an indie press. So an indie press is a small press. So like the Roaring Lion Newcastle is an indie press because one we have less than 10 authors, and it could even still be like less than 20 or less than 50 authors, and we will still be like a small press. But a small press is just a press that does not actually cater to so many, like we do not cater to a large segment of the market like the traditional presses that would have thousands of authors on their imprint. So that's the difference between like, and as a self-published author, you are taking like you're in charge of the whole process from writing the book to publishing the book and putting it on all the publishing platforms. And for the indie press, like the Rural Lion Newcastle Limited, we once a manuscript is submitted to us, for instance, we review the manuscript, and if we believe it's up to our publication standards, we'll accept it, give the author a publishing contract, and we start the process of putting that book into publication. And the process would be getting the book cover designed, having the book proofread and professionally edited, and doing the formatting before publishing on sites like Amazon, Ingram, Spark, which also fits into Barnes and Noble and most of the other booksellers around the world. Then we have sites in Nigeria like Okada Books and Co as well that the books are plugged into. So, but I think the major issue that self-published books face in recent times, or do face, is that, or that people complain about, is that they are mainly or mostly low quality in terms of the total output, filled with errors and all of that. And how can we ensure that we write a book devoid of errors? So don't write your book and give it to your friend to like proofread and edit for you, or don't do it yourself. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So if you want to put out a book like for public consumption that you want people to read around the world, then you must invest in that process, which I would say get a professional editor who will do a great job, do a thorough editing job for you, and proofread it to to the highest of standards. So personally, at the Royal Lion Newcastle Limited, we go to that length to ensure that our books are error free, and we publish it to the highest of standards. Because like I told you earlier, I go to the market, and today, and one thing about being in the marketplace is that people come to you, they buy the books like every week, and they come back to you. If your book is great, they will always give you feedback, and if it's crap as
Hello, it seems it got frozen for some seconds.
Oh, really? So,
Yes, at that point where you said you go to go to the market and then people come to buy books and then they come back with comments. From there, we couldn't hear anything again.
so when you go to the marketplace and people come back to you with their feedback, you must ensure that whatever book you're selling in the marketplace, is of the highest quality standards, because you don't want like books that are filled with errors. Like for instance, my like our books are stocked in libraries around the UK. So for instance, books that are being bought by libraries in the UK, those books must like be really good, because when people are getting the books of the library, those books must be of the highest quality standard. And I think that's the main issue that like most people have with self-published books. Uh, there's just this general apathy towards self-published books because they believe like it's not be properly done. So I think that's how we can improve as well as self-published authors.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right, I would like you to talk more about your own firm now, the Roaring Lion publishing firm. Now, for someone in Nigeria or someone who is not in the UK and who would like to publish his or her book through your firm, how can the person go about it? What are the things involved?
Yeah, so to have a book published with us at the Roaring Lion Newcastle Limited, you check our website, the Roaring Lion Newcastle.com, the
Okay.
Roaring Lion Newcastle.com. When our submission windows, when it's opened, you can submit your manuscript to us. So when you check on the website and you see that the
I'm trying to
window
spell in the chat now. The Roaring Lion
Newcastle.com.
Newcastle.com.
Yeah.
Sir?
So we've published so many books. We have about we have about six we have about six authors now on the imprints, um, either published or not yet published. Yeah, so well we have so many we have some authors on the imprint now. So and we publish a lot of. So what you do is you submit your manuscript when the window is open. Our team will review the manuscript, and once we believe it, we can publish it, and we accept that manuscript for publication, then we'll get in touch with the author with a contract, and from there, the contract will spell out all the details of the publication. And so I think it's quite easy and straightforward. So it's all about sending in your work when our window is opened, and after that, we move things forward. So always check out the roaringlionnewcastle.com, and we can always, and if you want to inquire as well, make inquiries as well, you can always drop us an email at books@theroaringlionnewcastle.com or info@theroaringlionnewcastle.com. So to inquire if the window is not open yet, if you want to find out when because we've actually done a lot of books this year, so the probability of having new books this year is quite slim now. We might still have some probably in the last quarter of the year, but mainly we are looking at 2022 for publication of for us to reopen the window again. So for anyone who is interested, just reach out to us at roaringlionnewcastle.com. You can drop us a message as well on the contact us page. You will definitely get a response. And yeah, so I think that's it. But we are a small press based in Newcastle upon Tyne, and that's what we do. We publish books from Africa. We publish just African literature at the moment here, because we want to be a home for African literature. Yeah, so that's what we want to be known for. A home for African authors, Nigerian writers. Frozen.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you for honoring our invitation. Thank you for the time spent with us. I believe some of our viewers might also have one or two questions for you, sir. But the first question I got from here, this person wants to know when is the best time to publish a book? Because I think I've also read somewhere that there are different books for different seasons. Like there are some kind of books that if you publish around January, February, that early at the beginning of the year, it will sell more than when you publish it maybe in the middle of the year or towards the end of the year. So if, for example, we want to publish a collection of poetry, what moment of the year is the best time for one to publish a collection of poetry? Or let's just say, are there fixed time for a particular kind of book?
And
Talking about
well,
yes.
what I would say is that if you are looking into targeting specific times, maybe looking at maybe the World Book Day, you know, National Poetry Day. So I think those are just probably, if you are looking at targeting your launch dates towards those times. But personally, I don't really like. I've published books like at like different times: January, April, September, August. So I don't like, personally, I wouldn't say, oh, this is the best time or this is not the best time. But if the book is coming out around like important events, it could be really beneficial. So say you're writing a book about Black history and you're publishing that book around Black History Month, it could make a lot of sense in terms of like driving sales to that book. If you are releasing a poetry collection around National Poetry Day and you know that that could be a great way to get your book out there, that could be great as well. But I think the most important thing is like just planning ahead and working with, like, if you don't have, ensuring like you have that target audience, have a target audience in mind who the book is really meant for. There's nothing like, oh, I don't know, no, like there's no audience. Every book has its own audience, because a book, you cannot write a book that the whole world would appreciate anyways. So have your target audience in mind, and if there are specific events that are ongoing that you can plug into, then that would be good. Then let me just mention as well, one other way to like get more credibility as a writer is by submitting to magazines. So we have Lion and Lilac .org, which is a UK, Lion and Lilac Arts is a UK-based art organization which we aim to promote, the literary culture, most especially amongst the underrepresented groups. And we publish works from writers from across the world: US, Canada, Australia, UK, even Nigeria as well. So if you want to check out lionandlilac.org, and actually a new issue is coming out tomorrow, 1st of August. So if you have works that you want to submit, it's probably not meeting tomorrow's deadline, but probably for future submissions, you can always check out Lion and Lilac, check out our past issues. And I think that's also a way to improve as a writing. Read other, so even if you can't buy poetry books, like go to sites like Lion and Lilac and read like what people have submitted on the site, what they've written, and see the way people write. There's people that have been accepted into magazines and all of that way to also improve on our art as a writer. So just thought I should add that in as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I think your birthday is coming up next month, sir.
It's September.
It's September. Okay, September. So are we looking forward to another release?
Yeah. So my collection of coronavirus poems will be launched on the 8th of September to
Okay.
celebrate my birthday. So it's not really, it's a book that chronicles all the events of the last year, from December 2019 when COVID-19 came out in Wuhan, China. So to the present time, even though we are still in the pandemic. So that will be released on the 8th of September 2021. So
we can have access to it here in Nigeria too, I believe.
yeah, definitely. It will be available in Nigeria. But
Okay.
if anyone is looking to like buy any of my books, you can actually get them from Roving Nights. Roving Nights is where you can all of my books in Nigeria. You can buy them. You can reach out to them. Even all up until all the most recent release, Black Not Inferior, Never Marry a Writer, Everybody Don't Colomenta, Inferno of Silence, A Beautiful Love. They are all available to order from at Ruby Night. So for those who are watching, who are seeing books like in Nigeria, so just check out Ruby Night on either Facebook or Instagram or on Twitter and send them a DM, and the books will arrive. So,
Thank
so
you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time. We can't really thank you enough. We really wish we had more time to spend with you, but I know it's definitely have to go and do some other things. So we thank you so much, Mr. Tolu A Akinyemi. I don't know what's the A in the A Akinyemi. The A stands for,
Adiola,
sir. The A stands for
Adeola, Adeola.
Ola. Okay, now I know. Tolu Adeola Akinyemi. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I would like to also celebrate you for how well you have been encouraging young people like us in this space, giving us the encouragement we need to just keep writing and keep making impact in the literary space. Thank you so much for what you do, Mr. Tolu Adeola Akinyemi. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you for having me on this channel, and thanks to everyone who are tuned in to watch. I believe in the generation next, and I believe that, like, I think my parting words to everyone who is watching, every writer watching out there, is that you don't have to be perfect when you start out. So like, don't let anyone beat you with the stick of perfection. When I started writing, I've had people tell me, "Oh, your writing was not distinctive and engaged when I started." So I don't want anybody to, and I think telling these stories is quite important as well, because a lot of people want to give you the impression that when they started, that they started as perfect writers who can. But if you see many authors today, even their first book, they've unpublished their book because they are not proud of the first book they ever wrote or their first drafts. So don't let anybody beat you with the stick of perfection. Keep on learning the craft, keep on improving, in your ability, keep on reading. Today, I've won multiple awards, not Nigerian awards, on the international scene. So that goes to tell you that today you may start out and they say, "Oh, you are not good enough, you are not the best out there." But through consistency, dedication, discipline, and commitment to reading, you can get better. So as a writer as well, don't be part of people that don't read books. You cannot be a writer you cannot be a good writer or a great writer without reading. So I would encourage everyone, like, we must also embrace reading books as well. So because if you don't read, some people will say they don't want to be influenced like with other people's writing, but to be honest, you have to read. If you don't read, you won't be able to, you won't get better. You can't unless you can't see, I know the way I write, but if I don't read other people's work, I don't even know what's raining. It's just like a musician, you listen to just your own songs. Then there's no way you would know what's raining or what's trending. And for you to improve and how to like apply application in getting better as well. So that would be like a form of advice, to write to other writers.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time. And my wife just reminded me of something. Now, when you said Adiola, she said, "Hope that," she was asking me if that doesn't ring a bell. Actually, that was our tag. That was the tag for our wedding, Adiola 2026. Because she's Adebola and Olabayo, so we used Adiola as our tag.
Oh, wow! That's really good to know.
She just reminded me now.
That,
All right,
that
so thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. We hope to see how much of you around. Because I know Mr. Tolutoludo, definitely whenever I call him, he will always answer me. In fact, there was a time I was not even in touch with him for a long time. And it was the one that even reached out to me and be like, Prof, how far now? I've not heard from you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for all you do. We really, really appreciate you. And we hope that some other time we'll be able to bring you up again to have a conversation with you, sir.
The pleasure is mine. Let me give the Witty Writers World a loud roar. This is a loud roar for the Witty Writers World. Roar!
Thank you, too, sir. Thank you very much. Really.
Thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Have a nice day, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
All right, everyone. That was Mr. Tolu A. Akinyemi. And I believe you really enjoy yourself. You enjoyed the moment with us. Thank you so much for sticking around till this moment. And for those that will be watching this later, we love you. Thank you.